Hi, I'm Callum from Tyne Valley Motorhomes, and this is the handover of the Auto Sleeper Warrick XL. So this vehicle is fitted with a 25 litre underslung gas tank, so it doesn't take a bottle. To fill the gas system, you go to your local LPG centre and buy it on the pump. Connect the fitment to the vehicle, turn the front of the nozzle to lock it onto the bayonet fitting of the van, pull the trigger back, and then press and hold the button on the pump until it stops. And something like this will take about 20 to 25 pounds depending on how much you pay for gas to fill from empty. So using the Fetford key, you can unlock the cassette locker. This is your cassette. So your cassette will indicate on the toilet when it's full and needs to be emptied. To empty the cassette, lift the blue lever and slide the cassette free of the van. You can either carry it or you can wheel it to your disposal point on site, depending on how heavy it is. And then to empty, all you need to do is remove the cap here, pop the cap to one side, press the blue button at the back, which allows a bit of air in to stop it glugging when pouring the contents of the cassette out. Once you've emptied the cassette, there's normally a tap, so put a bit of water in, put the cap back on, give it a rinse before going in with a cap full of chemical. This can be green or blue depending on what the site prefers here. The green's more environmentally friendly. Some liquid in here, into there, and then you can pop it straight back into the van and the toilet can be used. If you ever go to get the toilet out and you can't get it out, when lifting the blue clip up, you may have the blade on the toilet open. The blade must be closed to allow the cassette to come out of the van. To hook the vehicle up when charging it at home or when on a site, get your hookup lead, lift the collar, lift the flap on the van and connect the motorhome first, then the site, and do it in reverse order when unhooking to avoid walking around with a live lead. But when unhooking, if you press the blue clip down in the left hand corner of the hookup flap, you'll be able to remove the cable safely from the van. On the vehicle as well, you've got a wheel slide up flap which has a 12 volt point. So you've got a 12 volt point and a outside connection for an aerial. So if you're on a super site, you can connect here to use their aerial on the site opposed to the one on the roof of the van. So if you're in a hard to reach place for a signal, some sites offer this, and if you carry a length of coax, you'll just be able to connect it to the van and the post and get a better TV reception. To fill the vehicle with water, using the wheel hose pipe, connect it onto the vehicle, which is your square end, and then connect the other end to the tap, and you'll be able to fill the van with water and look on the control panel to see how much water is in your freshwater tank at any one time. So on this vehicle as well, you've got another lift up wheel flap, which is your external barbecue point. So if you plan on using your Caddock or external barbecue outside, there's a quick release connection, cable tied to this point. So if you just cut that off, get a length of gas hose and 2 Jubilee clips to connect the connection onto the pipe and onto the barbecue, pop it into here and turn the gas tap on, which will allow a gas feed from the underslung gas tank to power your Caddock for outdoor cooking. Using your habitation key, you can unlock your water filler. You can fill 2 ways on this vehicle, so you can fill with the wheel pump like I've shown, or you can get a flat end of the hose and pop it into here and fill the van. It doesn't matter which way you fill it, it's just entirely up to yourselves, but you can put the flat end of the hose into here, connect the other end onto the tap and fill it until it overflows, or you look on board the control panel to see how much fresh water you're carrying at any one time. So located next to the passenger door, you've got your diesel filler, which opens with the main ignition key, so you can fill with diesel fuel. And underneath, because it's a new diesel styled engine and it's Euro 6 compliant, it does take AdBlue. So the AdBlue tank is 19 litres on a Peugeot or Fiat. Doesn't matter which van, they're both the same. You can fill it from the pump, which is far cheaper than buying it in the drums. So when the AdBlue light comes on, which it'll come between the temperature gauge and the fuel gauge, it'll come up with a little exhaust light to let you know that your AdBlue's low. You can fill up on the pump and it'll take around 15 litres to fill back up. So buy it on the pump, it's about £1.20 at the minute a litre, whereas if you buy the drums, it's £30 for 10 litres, so you would need 2, so you're paying £60 and not using all of that. So if you just buy it on the pump, it's a little bit cheaper, and that just cleans your emission system on the vehicle to make sure it's nice and clean and doesn't emit any black soot. So located just in front of the back driver's wheel, you've got your freshwater drain off point. So it's clipped up at the moment. You can unclip it, take the cap off, and when you're ready to drain the van down for the winter, or you've taken a source of contaminated water on, or you're just simply not using the van for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, you can just open this up and allow the fresh water to drain out of this point. So on the back of the van, you've got your high level brake light, and above that you've got your rear view camera. It's fitted with the Carry Bike 200 DG bike rack. So to use this, you would pull it down, put your bikes opposite ways on the rails, put these through the spokes and tie the wheels down. And then you've got your crossbars, so these hold the bike crossbars. So you've got one, the shorter one being for the first bike, the longer one being for the bike furthest away from the back panel of the van. And then put some sort of bike lock around the back of the bikes to the rack, so that if you leave the van unattended on a site or at the services, your bikes are nice and safe on the back of your vehicle. And then finally, you've got a fixed tow bar with 7-pin electric, so if you do plan to tow a small trailer, a car, anything like that, you are able to tow because it's already got the tow bar fitted to this vehicle. So located just underneath your sliding cargo door on your passenger side, you've got a grey tap. This is your wastewater tap, so this is anything that you've put down: a shower, a sink, kitchen sink, wash basin, and all you need to do is open it up and allow this water out. But you'd normally drive over the disposal point on the way out of the site and let your wastewater out. Don't be driving around with dirty water in your tank when you've been to a site, because there's no need, because you're just going to add more weight to the vehicle, meaning you can put less things on board and you're going to use more fuel. So get rid of your water, your wastewater, when you can, to make you lighter on weight, which means you're better on fuel, and you can put more of your personal items on board. Located on the side of the dashboard, opening the passenger door first, you've got your lever for your bonnet release. So in the floor on the front of the cab is the location of where your engine battery lives. So if you need to replace this in upcoming years, or you want to put a charger on it, anything like that, the battery is underneath the floor, not underneath the bonnet. Underneath the passenger seat is where your toolkit is. So you can remove this cover first, unlock the toolkit, and it slides forward, and in here is a jack, a brace, a tow eye, screwdriver, everything that you need to be towed off the road or to change your spare wheel. So underneath the bonnet you've got your screen wash, which is just above the driver's headlight. So this is the one you're going to need the most for topping your screen wash up when touring. 3 tabs on this part of the scuttle lifts off, and you've got your power steering fluid, which is this one here, and then next to it you've got your coolant, and then next to that you do have your brake fluid. Engines down below, so you've got your engine oil filler and your engine oil dipstick for checking your levels once every so often. You can do a little bit of maintenance on the van and just check your oil levels correct. And then if you ever need to jump start the vehicle, this is your earthen point, and then located next to the air filter, if you use a screwdriver or your key, you can pop your key in here, something flat, and lift this back. And this is your positive for giving or receiving a jump start. So this is your 12-volt control panel. Once inside the van, this is touchscreen, so if you touch it to illuminate, and then you want to turn on your master switch. Your master switch will give you 12 volt from your leisure battery. However, if you're hooked up and you get this symbol here, you're hooked up to mains, so you'll be able to use all household sockets and household appliances within the van, because you'll have two 30 volt. Once you've turned your master switch on, you can then turn your lights on, and then underneath that you've got your awning light. You've got your pump here, so you'll need to turn your pump on to operate the taps, toilet, shower. Without this, you'll just get whatever's in the lines, as there'll be no pressurized water flow. However, you can check the levels of water by clicking the water level there, and you can see your fresh and your waste water. So you can see that we've got 100% fresh on board and 25% waste. So when travelling, and if you're going to a site, only tend to travel with a maximum of 20 litres fresh, because this will give you enough to stop and use the toilet, put your kettle on, have a cup of tea and break your drive up. But if you're going wild camping, you will have to take a full tank of water with you, and you want to get rid of your wastewater at the site and never drive with it, to eliminate being overweight, heavier, and meaning that you're taking more room up in your payload by carrying dirty water. So don't carry your dirty water with you. Underneath that, you've got your power levels, so you can see your leisure battery, your vehicle battery, your active battery, which is always your leisure battery, which is saying that it's drawing 1.9 amps at the moment, your mains that's coming in, and the solar panel. The solar panel goes to sleep, so always make sure that when connected to mains, the solar panel goes to sleep. When unconnected and the vehicle's sitting, as long as it's sunny outside, the solar panel will charge your leisure battery. These voltages at the moment are charging voltages. Your battery is never 14 volts. Unhook the vehicle and you'll get a true reflection of what the rest rate of the batteries are when the vehicle is unhooked. And then finally, going into, just before we go into settings, you've got a power transfer button, so you are able to charge the engine battery from hookup. But at the moment, you always want it to be on the leisure, because that is the separate auxiliary battery to power the motorhome. However, when you're putting it away in the winter and it's parked on the drive and you haven't driven it for a few days, 10 days, 2 weeks, we always recommend that they are driven. Stops the tyres being cracked and perishing when sitting, and gives the van a good run. However, you can put this button on, and what that does is this is a power transfer button. So it now charges the vehicle battery from the mains hookup to avoid the battery going flat. However, if the battery is fully flat, you will have to drive the vehicle. This won't bring the battery up to a full charge from empty. It will only maintain it once there's sufficient charge in the engine battery. Now going into the settings, you've got an active battery. You always want that to be on leisure. Don't put that on smart, because what smart does, it analyzes both batteries, and if the vehicle battery's got more charging than the leisure battery when wild camping, it will switch over and you could flatten the engine battery, and then you'll be going nowhere on your holidays. You've also got the vehicle, you've got the solar panel battery select. At the moment that's selected to smart and it's selected to the vehicle because we're hooked up, so it's going to put the charge to the vehicle battery. When not hooked up, again, it analyzes both and will select which battery it requires. Automatic tank fill, you can turn this on and off, on and on even, and that will allow you to fill up with water from the wheel pump from the driver's side of the vehicle, whereas the other side on this is the standard hose fitment. Tank heaters, if you're away in the winter, you can turn these on. It stops the water from freezing in the tanks when it's going to drop below freezing when using the van. When not using the van, drain your water system off to avoid this happening. You've got your lighting settings, you've got your screen settings, and you've got your time and date. So you can change your time when the clocks go back and forth. To operate your wheel heating system, which does your heating and hot water, on the top line you've got your hot water. So if you press here, you can scroll through the different settings. So starting off with the snowflake, this is frost start, so this will keep the water above freezing at 5 degrees. Then you've got your first power setting, so this is 750 watts of mains electric on 1 kilowatt, which is one wavy line. 2 wavy lines is 1850 watts of mains power. And then you've got gas by itself. So you'd use gas by itself if you're wild camping. You'd use 1 wavy line if you're on a smaller CL site, 2 if you're on a main camping and caravanning club that aren't, or give you a good feed of electric. On smaller CL sites you may have to use 1 just because they're not as generous with the power. Then you've got your mixture settings. So your mixture settings is gas and 750 watts of mains power. And then you've got gas and 1850 watts of mains power. So this is known as mix 2, whereas the previous one's known as mix 1. You can use these in the winter if you're away and you're desperate to get the water up to temperature or the van up to temperature, you can use the mixture settings, which will reduce the time it takes to heat either the vehicle or the water. Once gas is selected and it's running, you'll have this little icon here of a gas flame, which tells you that the system is on. But if you're on a site, you would just use electric to heat your water. Underneath, you've got your heating, so plus and the minus. Starting off, you've got the little snowflake, again keeps it above 5 degrees, and then you've got the little moon, 15 degrees, this is nighttime mode. And then if you go all the way up to the top, you've got 30 degrees. 1 kilowatt, 750 watts of mains power. 2 kilowatts, 1850 watts of mains power when hooked up. 3 kilowatts, which is your 3 wavy lines which you have on your heating and not the hot water. Gas by itself, which you'd use if you're wild camping and not hooked up to heat the vehicle. And then gas and 2 kilowatts of power, which is 1850 watts. So that in the winter, you'd use that once you've arrived on your site for the first 20 minutes to get the vehicle up to temperature. And then you can adjust the temperature to suit. Always make sure it's above the outside air temperature, otherwise it won't kick in. And once the heating's been on, if you just turn it off, so you've gone right the way along and it's all gone off, and you'll hear the fans whirring in the background, and it goes through a cooling down period where it blows all the hot air out the boiler before knocking off the main 12 volt switch panel or starting the engine, as this will fault the boiler. If the boiler faults, you'll get a red exclamation mark down the side, either on the, if it's a hot water that's faulted, it'll be up the top, and if it's the heating, it'll be at the bottom. To clear this, you would press, say it was the heating and the plus button together, which will eliminate that exclamation mark and reset the boiler. If it was hot water and the plus button together to eliminate the fault code. In the kitchen on this model, you've got 3 gas burners, so make sure the glass lid is up far enough, and always make sure that they're cool before you put the glass lid down, otherwise you'll shatter the glass if they're hot and you put it down on top. So you've got to have your 12 volt control panel on to get the ignition for your burners. You've got 3 lit there, allow them to cool before putting the lid down, and then underneath you do have 1 grill, so your grill's lit. Leave the door open for your grill to work, and then underneath you've got your oven. If you ever need any parts for your oven or grill, there's a sticker here which gives you all the information, which is known as your data sticker of your oven. Any parts required, give us that, or anyone else that's getting your parts, motorhome and caravan dealer wise. They'll require this to look for the right Thetford parts. So to work the Thetford fridge, you press the on button, which is located on the left hand side, to turn on. You've got your source selector here, and you've got your temperature, so you can adjust the temperature to suit by just pressing and holding. 5 being the coldest, 1 being the warmest. So when pre-chilling, have it on 5. When you put your shopping in, you might just want to turn it down to 3 or 4, because sometimes it can freeze the fridge. However, if you're away abroad and you're in 30 degrees heat, or if the UK ever gets that warm, you may need to turn it up slightly just so that the fridge can cool itself down a lot quicker, which is located there. This is your source selector. So the first square button is your source selector. So you can go through 240 volt, which is mains hookup, gas, which you'd use if you're wild camping, and 12 volt, which you'd use when the van is driving to keep the fridge down to temperature, which is just a 12 volt fan. However, on automatic, it switches through the sources by itself. So the brain of the fridge picks out the best source available, and it will always prioritize mains. Once the vehicle's unhooked, so if I unhooked it now, it would switch over to gas and self-ignite. Or if I was to go and put the keys in the ignition and start the engine, it would switch over to 12 volt, which will only maintain the temperature of the fridge. It won't get any cooler, it won't get any warmer, but it will keep it nice and steady when you're driving until you arrive on your site and either hook the vehicle back up or go wild camping, and it will select gas. However, it does wait 20 minutes before lighting on gas on the automatic feature. This is a safety feature of the fridge, so that if you pulled in to fill up with diesel, the last thing you want is it sparking where the petrol fumes are, in case you forgot to turn your gas bottle off. So it waits 20 minutes. To overcome this, when you wild camping, you take it off automatic and find gas. So you can take it off automatic or leave it on, it's entirely up to yourself, but on automatic it flicks through the sources for you, unless you're going on to gas from turn the engine off, and you will have to turn it off the automatic feature for 20 minutes to allow you to manually self-ignite the fridge on gas. When not using the fridge, it's good protocol to give it a wipe out with some antibacterial wipes, take your bits and pieces out, and then leave the door open. So there's a little clip here which comes out and clips into here, and it allows the door to vent when you're not using it. To operate your domestic microwave, make sure you're hooked up to mains, turn on here, which will give you power to your microwave. And these new domestic microwaves are plateless, so they've got a heat pad in, so there's nothing to rattle when you're going down the road. But this will only work when hooked up to mains, as it's an 800 watt microwave. So to operate your Avtex TV, using the remote, press the on button and point it to the red light at the bottom. It'll go to blue, which brings the TV on from standby. But every time you move location, you will need to retune the TV, as it'll pick up different signals. And to do this, on the Avtex you've got an AQT button, so if you press and hold, it'll bring up an auto search, press OK, and it'll find as many channels as it can in your area. It will go pretty quick up to the halfway mark, and then the signal will start to bring in the programs, so don't panic if it's running too fast. It does start to pick up channels, so it picks up digital TV signals, data channels and radio stations. So as this van is fitted with an aerial, it's an omnidirectional fixed aerial. So if you are struggling to get a signal, or the picture is pixelating, you can try using the amplified booster, either bringing it up or turning it down until you either pick up the signal that you want, or the picture stops pixelating so you get the perfect picture. But that is on the TV booster here. Leave it turned on, it will turn off with the main 12 volt system of the vehicle. To operate your roof mounted lights, make sure your control panel's on, and then they are individually switched, so you can turn them on and off depending on where you want the lights on the ceiling light. You have two reading lights on either side of the lounge, so you can turn these on. You can also move them down the rail depending on where you want them, so you can have them in the back corners of either side, or you can bring them down depending on where you're sitting, so you can have an individual reading light. There's two this side and there's two that side. So underneath the bunk at the back of the vehicle on the driver's side, you've got the location of your 60 amp hour leisure battery. Located on the top of the driver's side rear lounge seat, removing the cushions, is the location of where your boiler is. So your boiler, you need to drain down in the winter to winterize the van to avoid the water from freezing. So to drain the boiler off, you need to turn this tap to the front of the cab, and the water will drain out directly out underneath the van on the ground. Once you've done this, you would make sure the freshwater tap from the outside of the van is left open and the wastewater tap is left open. So no water can sit in the van and cause any damage when we're experiencing frost. You would then go to all your taps within the van, so your kitchen tap, your hand basin tap, your shower, and leave them open. With the shower, you remove the shower head from the hose and lie this in the shower tray. Once this is all done, you would go to the control panel, put the power on, put the pump on, and allow the pump to turn on for 10 seconds. This is enough to blow the water through the lines and out of the tap, so you get the last cough out of the tap. And then you would turn everything off and leave the van sat during the winter, not in use, safely, so no water can freeze. When you come to reuse the van, you want to close the boiler, so you want to point it to the passenger side wheel arch. You want to close the fresh and the waste. You want to assemble the shower head back on the hose and shut the taps, and then you want to fill the vehicle with water. Once you've got water in the freshwater tank, you would come on board, turn your control panel on, turn your pump on, and bleed the water through, which is known as a system called priming. When you're priming, you'll get an automatic flow of water from the cold side of the tap straight away. So when you go to the hot or start to mix it with any hot water, you get a bit of coughing and spluttering. And what that's doing is it's bringing the water from the freshwater tank into the boiler, which is in here, filling that up, pushing the air out. There's 10 litres in there of water to come in, as it's a 10-litre boiler, until you get a pressurised flow of hot on the hot side of the tap. Once you've got this, your system's primed. Start off with one tap, do them all. Once you've got it on all 3 taps, you're good to go. You can then start heating the water and check the hot water system is working for the season ahead. So these are your gas isolation valves. If you've got any problems with gas, you can turn each individual appliance off here, as this is your gas manifold. However, these are mainly for when the vehicle is annually serviced. You can see there that you've got the gas taps, so in the landscape position, they're open. In the portrait position, they're closed. These are mainly for when the vehicle is serviced. However, this has a gas tank fitted to it, this vehicle. So what you can do is, if you're boarding a ferry and they say, is your gas turned off? If you just turn all them gas taps off, the gas can't get from the tank into the vehicle. However, there is a main stopcock on the tank underneath the van, but the likelihood of you climbing underneath the van when you're about to board a ferry at 3 o'clock in the morning when it's raining is next to none. So if you turn them off, it's good enough, as the gas is all shut off from the van and isolated to its own tank. On the back of the Warrick XL, you've got a large lounge, so you can either use these as 2 single beds, or if you want to create one large king size bed, all you need to do is slide the fronts of the seats out, meet in the middle, put your backrests into the middle to fill the void. So it's a bit tight but you can't get the cushion in. And there you have one large double bed, but the best way to do it is turn everything upside down, as you get the flat surface to sleep on. You don't get the bull nose and the ribs in the cushions where they've got the studs in. You get one flat surface, so you can put your bed sheets on, your mattress topper, whatever you need on the backs of the cushions. So now in the washroom, to operate the toilet, press the blue button at the back, ensuring that the pump's on to get a fresh water flush to your system. So you can flush your toilet. Once you've flushed the toilet, before you use it, open the blade. You can now use the toilet. Everything's going to go into the cassette. If you've got any pink liquid, what you can do is, it doesn't have a separate header tank, so it's fresh water fed, but if you use a bottle, you can put so much pink in, so much water, spray the ball and flush and close the cassette once you're finished, and it'll do the same job. On the toilet, just in this corner here, you do have a green light. So the green shows that the cassette is empty or not full. Once that goes to red fully, the cassette's full and requires to be emptied, washed out and replenished with chemical. Also in here you do have your sink and your shower. So like I said, in the winter, if you just unscrew your shower head from your hose, because you see there's a load of water in there, lie that down in the shower tray and leave your tap open. It'll stop any water from collecting in this pipe. And then when you come to reuse it, you'll want to put the hose back on the head. Always make sure that your shower screens are tied back before you start to drive. This will stop them from causing any damage and making any noise when driving, and it just clips on here where the press stood. Be careful with what you clean or any of your plastic out with in here. So no bleaches, because you'll discolour the plastic. Washing up liquid, microfiber cloth, Dettol spray is good enough. No harsh scourers or bleaches, because you'll discolour the plastic. In the shower you also have a roof light, so you can open this up to let the steam out from once you've had a shower. Make sure all your skylights and windows are firmly closed before you start driving. And you've got a blackout blind for on an evening with another push sensitive light in the shower. And you've also got a sliding window so you can have a bit of ventilation whilst you're in the washroom. So this is your Sargent electrical consumer unit. So if you've blown a fuse or if you have tripped the van, try here before you try your main site. So your main trips are here on mains electric. If you think you're not receiving power, the best thing to do is trip the van. If the van trips, you've got power. If it doesn't, you're not receiving power. So check where you're hooked up to. This side, you've got all your 12-volt fuses, which you'll be carry some spare fuses with you in case one fuse does blow. You'll be able to pick the fuse out, check the fuse, but you'll see there you'll get a little red light as well, which means that the fuse is damaged or missing. So carry some spare standard size fuses with you just in case a fuse does blow. You can replenish the fuse and fix your problem when you're on holiday without it ruining your holiday. You've got a system shutdown button on the top, which is a power isolation button, so that will kill all 12 volt within the vehicle and it'll isolate the leisure battery, but you need to have that on when using the van. Charger lights up when hooked up, which charges your leisure battery or vehicle battery from mains, and your heating and hot water from 240 volts. So if you are storing it and you are leaving it hooked up, you might want to turn the heating and hot water off so that you can't be tempted to turn it on the panel accidentally and cause any damage. So you can turn it off, but this does need to be on as it's a fuse spare for the 230 volt to the boiler itself.